and welcome to Offsite Dirt, our platform for construction news and everything offsite, high performance, building science. We are just expanding in all areas. We have a special guest with us from Poynter Prefabricated Solutions with is Chip Parsley. The wonderful thing is I actually got to meet him at an advancing prefabrication event in Arizona, and I just fell in love with him. He is so he has expanded in the modular construction industry. He not only has expanded, but he's also been educated in it. He got a degree that he's going to talk to us about. Chip, I can't wait to hear your story. How are you today?
Hey, I'm doing great. I love to, if there's one thing I love to do, I love to tell stories. It's the way I talk and it's the way I communicate best with people. So it's the easiest way to communicate and really kind of illustrate your point, right? Because people get engaged
and you
into a
definitely
story.
have a story. So let's start at how and why you got involved in modular construction.
Sure. So back in, so I've been with Poynter since 2005. And so I've been here a while, and we are an HVAC commercial industrial specialty metals contractor, subcontractor, usually working for mechanicals. In-house, we handle a lot of structural steel. We do platforms and things like that. And so therefore, in January or right before January of 2020, my boss came to me and said, look, I really think there's an opportunity for us to do some modular construction. And him and I were both thinking, 80 square foot bathroom modules is what we were thinking. So that happens January of 2020. Well, by March of 2020, we all know what happened then. All those three lines, those markets, hospitality, healthcare, and higher ed, that do a lot of repeatable spaces, all those markets, they just went in the tank. So I was looking and searching to talk to anybody I could about modular construction. And I found a college called Stone Pile College. And they offered an opportunity to get a master's degree in modular construction. And so I reached out to the person who ran the college, and he's like, hey, we're just getting started. He goes, I would love for you to be in the inaugural class of this piece. And so I started with about 4 or 5 students, and we did it for about 20 months. And in May of 2022, I graduated with my master's degree in modular construction, which is amazing because when I graduated high school, I was going to be a stretch to get an associate's degree. And now I'm sitting here with an associate's, a bachelor's, and a master's degree. So really cool, really cool.
Not to mention, it's so unusual. We all have learned about offsite solutions, and modular construction is one of those forms. And to be able to find a school that now provides that. In the last 6 years that I've been in this industry, it is amazing the amount of growth. So from that, getting your master's degree, what are the top 3 things that you learned in that getting your master's?
Yeah, so it's funny. The best thing I learned was communication skills and writing. I mean, I wrote 2 papers a week for 20 months. And so you get really good at that. I remember the first paper I wrote took me like 10 hours. And by the time I got to the end, I was writing 2 papers in a day easily. Then I put together a 78-page thesis for my final paper, which I didn't think I was going to pass 35 and ended up with 78. So pretty amazing. But what I really learned was just I learned all the aspects of modular construction. I learned how to set up a shop, and how to get that manufacturing piece going. I learned about plumbing. I learned about electrical, things I didn't know because I was always kind of dialed into HVAC ductwork. So I learned all the other aspects of modular construction, structural, that I just didn't know, foundations, things like that. And so that kind of gave me a more rounded view of things and allowed me to really expand what I knew. And when we have problems now, I don't necessarily have to reach out to people because I got the knowledge myself through getting this master's degree. So when Poynter started, we were going after bathrooms. Those go away. We had a company come to us in 2020 and ask us to build some labs for them. We did those. Then I had another company come to me and ask me to build another lab. So, lab spaces are kind of, what we kind of got into all of a sudden because they are usually expensive when it comes to square foot, and people want to get them fast because the faster they can get those up and running, the faster they can get to revenue. So those are the 2 things that I've kind of done to date. And then also we're going to talk about the Good Samaritan Hospital and this modular prefabricated OR suite that it's not a suite, it's a penthouse for the hospital.
Yeah, I love that, you know, since COVID, so many things have happened, right? Like you were talking about, there were so many industries that have been, you know, restaurants and hospitals and hospitality. I mean, there's just so many areas that really suffered through that. And is the light gonna, you know, is the light gonna come back on for this
Yeah.
industry? And boy,
Right.
in the last 2 years, it has shifted incredibly. And
Yeah.
so for you to pivot and want to be interested, and the owner wanting to be interested to evolve your company, I think that there are more companies out there now that are in HVAC or plumbing or in building supply material, you name it, but there is a segment that's starting to get into an offsite solution. And it's phenomenal that you have already, you know, went in that direction and did it at such a great pace. So I would love to hear about this Good Samaritan Hospitals project. And if you can take us back to the very beginning of how this kind of all came about, I think there's a great lesson in being at the right place at the right time as well.
Yeah, that's so true. So I was preparing for a presentation that me and a friend of mine were going to give to Purdue University to their construction management class. I've had the benefit of talking to Ball State University, Purdue University, as well as Indiana University, Purdue University of Indianapolis. So all three of those construction management and architectural classes we have spoke to, trying to get that word out sooner. So when these people are graduating, they're thinking about modular construction and they're thinking about how can we prefab things, which is, you know, that's what we need to do. If we're ever going to get this thing going, we have to have the designers up front talking to the owners, as well as us talking to the owners about, hey, this is how you do it faster. This is how you do it with higher quality. And so anyhow, so we were in there doing this, finishing up, and the construction head of construction and engineering for Good Samaritan Hospital of Vincennes walked in and sat down, and he, you know, I introduced myself, and we had the last 10 minutes of our presentation. He sat through it. And so then about 6 months after I met him, he had his engineer call me up and say, hey, talk to Chip, because let's see if there's any prefab opportunities on this OR renovation that we're doing. And so he called me up and said, Chip, Don was talking about any type of prefab. He goes, but I've got this idea about some kind of modular piece that we could do on the roof. And so him and I kind of went back and forth. And I said, well, what about building a modular penthouse off-site, and we move all the equipment up into that, the VAVs, the hot coil, the reheat coils, the steam lines and all that stuff, and move it up into there, thus getting all of the wet and stuff that leaks from above the OR ceilings. He's like, man, Don would love that. He goes, that would be great. He goes, let's talk, let's design it. He goes, you do the structure, I'll do the mechanical piece. He goes, and let's price it up and we'll get it done. And so he reached back out to Don and said, Don, this is our idea. Don was like, that's a great idea. I mean, when you talk about maintenance, that's an ease. If we have a leaky coil, usually above an OR, you got to shut an OR down. This eliminates all that type of thing. So he was really excited about it, and it was owner direct. So I priced it up to him directly, and after we designed it, and then we just incorporated it into the project, and now it's in the shop right now being finished up. We're going to deliver it probably sometime in June, and we're going to set it in July with the other two air handling units that are going to be delivered as well. And it's also the other key point of this was they only have 15 days to shut down the ORs. And so in order to achieve this shutdown, we did all the work over the last 4 or 5 months in the shop with all the piping and putting everything in place. So now we've created it to where it's just like another air handling unit. So we're going to set basically 3 air handling units, hook everything up, and be able to turn it on in the 15 days or less that they're looking for. So that's a huge piece. Everybody knows ORs are a huge revenue model for hospitals. So that is it's better quality. He gets to check it out. He's already come out and punched it, and we're going to change a few things that he didn't really like, and he wanted to make some changes to it. So we were able to make those changes for him for maintenance reasons. And so he's able to, instead of having this 15-day rush of trying to get all this stuff in, he's had months to come up here, review it, look at it, and even have his maintenance guys come up and look it over and say, yeah, that's good. Hey, let's change that or something else. So the whole part of prefab, right, is you have opportunities to make it before it's needed, check it, and if there's any changes, you can go back and do that.
You brought up so many key points to your conversation. One, I like owner direct.
Mhm.
Being able to have communication with the owner to see what the project looks like, being able to set up your pre-construction, being able to determine all of those factors, set up expectations, and be able to have a deliverable. So there,
Mhm.
I love that one, right? I think
Mhm.
the other thing that I really like about this as well is that you're creating more safety on site. In
Mhm. Yeah.
15 days of being able to shut that down, even if you were able to get 1 week and to being able to connect all these things, you still have another week to go through and test and inspect and to make sure that all of the steps are coordinated. So I
Mhm.
love that. Let me ask you this. What was the client's feeling that they could come and check it out and make changes? What happened there? What was that exchange like?
So that's the part. That's the part they really loved. The fact that they're able to come up, look at it. Like I said, it was probably about a month ago they came up, and we were reviewing all the things with the engineer and with the owner on site, and he had his maintenance people with him, and they're like, "Hey, you know what? This box isn't exactly where we want it for maintenance coming up, or this is a tight. This is really tight. Can we move this over a little bit? Allow us more access to that, or this pipe, could we bring that down, or how about this VAV box, can we bring that down to a more serviceable height?" So them being able to come in and look at things and say, okay, I don't like my access here, can we move this over a little bit, being able to change things, and something that it's like an air handling unit. I mean, they're able to modify it to make it easier for them down the road. And so that'll, we're not just thinking about now and quick, we're also thinking about down the road maintenance. And, what the time, you know, if one of these boxes leak, he doesn't have to worry about, shutting down an OR. He just turns off the VAV box, shuts the OR. The OR stays sterilized. They don't have to re-sterilize it. The maintenance people do not have to go into that room. They go up into the penthouse, fix what they need to fix, and you're away you go. So it's not only now, but it's also down the line. And so that's the part of prefab is you get a lot of time to think about. And I was just having the conversation about, let's not talk about necessarily cheap in. Let's talk about life cycle of the building. And, okay, I'm going to do it this way, but what is that going to cost me over the course of 50 years when I operate this building? If I don't put in, good air handling units or, boilers or things like that, it's the conversation that needs to be had. And prefab, I think modular produces those conversations because the level of design is much deeper and you're looking at things more granularly. You're not at 10,000 feet, you're at 1,000 feet, and you're really picking and choosing what you're using and how you're doing it. And so therefore you get to also have the conversation of, okay, that's great. What's durability of that product we're putting in? Is that a 10-year product? Is that a 15-year product? Is that a 20-year product? Or is that just a 5-year product that we need to probably think about? So those conversations are helping owners not only get it done faster with a higher quality, but then also possibly expand life cycle, right? Now in 20 years, I have to make a replacement on something. Whereas if I would have went cheap in and, we just pulled it off and done stick built, it would only lasted 10. Because nobody had the opportunity to have the conversation about what's the quality of product you're putting into that module.
Agreed. So when you were putting together this project, did you guys use any specific software so that you can ease through that communication, or how did you work with the design part of it?
Yeah, so the engineer did all of the work as far as designing all the mechanical pieces inside the box that we kind of gave him the size of, and then we had the structural engineer build that box in BIM, and then we downloaded or melded together the mechanical piece and the structural piece to make sure that everything fit and that everything was at the proper heights, gave the clearances that they were looking for. You wanted walkways, so things couldn't be too low, things couldn't be too squeezed. So giving everybody, all the maintenance people, ability to, and that's another thing that we did, right? We had plenty of time to design it. So the maintenance crew could say, okay, hey, can we change that? Can we change this? Even in the BIM model. So yeah, we used Revit.
Yeah,
And,
it's wonderful that
was it?
you are fully integrating a team.
Yes.
Because think about all of those engineers, and then, they have a mindset of how it's supposed to work on
Mhm.
a very etheric level of this is the building science of how this is supposed to work.
Right.
And that's wonderful because we need that. That's how, building code is existing. That's how inspections happen. We have to meet these standards. But I
Mhm.
think the interesting thing that you brought up, Chip, was that you got to bring in maintenance people that work there every day, that have to
Right.
do their job, and being able to have their voice be heard, and
Mhm.
then being able to change something is evolving the way that we're doing business. And we're doing it in an offsite solution where we can make that happen in this place, have those conversations, and then take that and implement it.
Mhm.
Usually traditional construction doesn't really walk through those things. So that's where I think, Poynter is being so highly advanced in their mindset to be able to say, we want to help, we can coordinate, we want to work with you. Life cycle, I agree. All those things are benefits, but also you're also caring about the people that are working there.
Right. Right. Yeah, and they don't get to usually look at the product or live with the product until after it's done, and then they want to complain about it. But that means somebody has to come back and change or fix, and then the GC is already on to his next thing, or the CM or the plumber. They don't want to come back and change anything. So, yeah, absolutely, it gives them lots of time, and we've spent 6 months building it. So, I mean, we had plenty of time to build it, and we didn't. It wasn't a rush.
Right, and it's
Everything went in.
indoors, so you're not
Yeah,
having any issues with
no,
any outdoor elements, right?
none,
You're doing
none.
calculations with your structural team and your
Yep.
engineering team to make sure things
Mhm.
are on par. I love that you
Yeah.
are using BIM, building modeling information, and
Right.
building information modeling, and
Yep.
using Revit, because what that is, for people that don't know, is it's a technology platform that really designs and builds in a 3D design, so you can
Mhm.
walk through all of those different areas, all those connections, and have those discussions, so that not only is the team aware of how it's going to be designed, but then that also works with your shop drawings and how to build it,
Yeah.
right?
Right. And when you do modular and prefab, we're talking about a very deep level of design, right? I mean, my structural guy gives me fabrication drawings. I can't, it's not just get it close and it'll be close enough. No, it has to be, exactly how the welds are need to be, exactly where it needs to be. What's the height? The heights are, important. We got to put this on a truck and ship it down the road. So it needs to be below 13.6 or 13.6, because that's legal rolling down the road in Indiana. So, I think we are at the, I think we're at the tip of the spear on this thing. I think it's the top piece of the glacier is what we're working on. There is so much more and so much deeper this can go as far as prefab, modular, and everything else. I hope that in 12 to 15 years, when I walk away from this, that it's a lot more advanced, but it's going to take a while. It really is. I mean, I'm trying to push this in the Midwest. And when I started talking about this 3 years ago, everybody thought it was a great idea, but nobody was going to do it.
Yeah, I
And so,
remember having those same conversations when I got into modular construction
yeah,
6
yeah.
years ago. I met over 100 builders to try to work with me on building modular homes, and I only came up with one after 100.
Mhm.
But I do
Yeah.
believe, Chip, and I think we're already seeing it, that we have to start looking different. And so what are some of the goals that Poynter is looking to achieve in the next 24 months?
So I've got my irons in the fire on a couple of projects that we already had a client come in 2 weeks ago, and they're looking to talk to me about a modular MOB for their office for their hospital location, and they want me to build 17,500 square feet. And so a goal for mine is to one or two things: one, capture that job, right? But two is to not build it with just boxes. Not say everything has to be 12 feet, because I can't go any higher. Look at utilizing roof panels, maybe some racking, some mechanical racking, floor panels. They said they want to put it on a crawl space. So it's like, okay, I'm gonna, you look at how to do that. So it's finding more opportunities. One or two things: one, to do more modular work, but then also trying to find more opportunities in the mechanical multi-trade racking piece, because that is where I think Poynter can really, really succeed, because that falls right into our wheelhouse. We're already doing structural pieces. We're already doing the HVAC piece. So all we really have to add is the plumber for domestic water, so maybe some electrical communications, and that racking piece. And so trying to find out more opportunities and find more opportunities, and maybe talk to more owners about doing that type of thing. Hospital work is starting to come back, but what's huge right now for us is EV. So we've got a couple of EV plants that we're doing, large, huge EV plants. And so, that's the other thing too, is that modular and prefab don't fit everywhere, right? I mean, when you're talking about a building that's 3.5 million square feet,
yeah, you need several factories to fulfill that, right? There's so much capacity in one location.
Well, that and
fulfill, right?
you can't. Then you have to start to think about, even a 500,000 square foot building is a kind of a kit of parts.
Yes.
So this modular prefab thing has been happening for a while, and there are things that are already there. They're already there, but what we want to do is we want to find a building and break it into chunks. Now, I don't know if you know this or not, but I've been talking to a lot of healthcare people, and they said they can't build multiple story hospitals because of a rating that doesn't allow them to stack hospital rooms. And I don't know if it's fire rating or if I'm not 100% sure.
I've heard something similar, but I'm also hearing that there are people coming to the solution for that.
Oh yeah. No,
I think one of the things that you and I both see, Chip, in this industry, and I think obviously this is why you got your master's in it and studying, is that we're starting to be more innovative. We're starting to figure out using construction in a different form. And again, I'm not saying it's perfect, and I'm not saying that it's for every project in every place. No, but I am saying that there are solutions that are coming about, and you've created one for Good Samaritan Hospital. So being able to have that innovative thinking and working with the owner that wants to actually also see that happen, and communication, right? Communication is key into setting up any of this exploration. So I think those are the points that we are starting to see bigger movements in. Would you think so?
Yeah. And being in the room, right? And what I've done is I've tried to be where the owners are. So I go find out who I want to talk to, and then I go be part of their associations. A perfect example is the Indiana Hospital Society for Engineers. And so it's basically a group of people who all run hospitals. And so we just had our spring conference last week, and went down to French Lick, Indiana. I'm in Indiana, and spent 3 days there talking to a bunch of owners. And and they're not doing anything right now, but we're talking a lot about modular. We're talking a lot about prefabrication. And so when those hospitals are ready to do an expansion or do anything like that, I'm in their head, and that's where I want to be. I don't need to be the solution for everything, but I want to be part of it. Just part of the conversation. And that's really all you can ask for, is just for somebody to think, because that's what Don did when Don wanted to talk about a solution. He called me up and said, "What do you got?" And I said, "Well, how about this?" He's like, "Sounds great. Let's do it." So it's just like you said, making those connections. You never know who you're going to talk to, who might be your next biggest client, or better, might introduce you to your next biggest client.
Oh my gosh. Well said. Thank you, Chip Parsley, for being here with Poynter Prefabricated Solutions. I'm so thrilled that you have not only given us some insight as to how offsite and prefabrication and standardization is happening, but also giving us the lessons forward of it's about being a collaborator and being in those groups and talking with those owners, and also knowing that it's not about you, it's about making solutions for others.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. When I met you, I was like, "Hey, I know you because I've watched some of your videos." I'm like, "Man, I would love to be on." I said, "So let me know if you have some space for me," and I appreciate it.
Well, of course, we will always have space for you. And I'm so glad that our paths have crossed, and I wish you great success. It's already coming. So wonderful, wonderful. You, Chip, making things happen. Wonderful Poynter, making some amazing expansions into Offsite Solutions. Thank you for sharing your story on Offsite Dirt. And we look forward to seeing more of your success.
Hopefully. Thank you very much.